Welcome to another video on Microsoft Access. Today what I want to do is go ahead and show how to take a database that already has data in it and set your relationships to enforce referential integrity. That can be difficult at times because the database, when it already has data in it, resists setting referential integrity, mainly because if even one record in your database doesn't meet the conditions for referential integrity, the database can't set referential integrity on all of it until you clear and or remove the obstacles to setting those settings. So what we want to do is to go ahead and look at the one solution, one way to get that done. The optimal solution is in the design phase, that you set your referential integrity before you put any data in it at all. But there are times, of course, when you get a database that already has data in it, but it's going to be advantageous down the road to have referential integrity set on a couple of tables. And so that's what I want to show you today. Now, I'm going to go ahead and open the database here. This particular database is a bookstore database that has a few tables in it already. If I go look at, I imported these tables from another database, and this is the data that I'm going to work with going forward. In the Database Tool tab, we can look at the relationships, and by default, it's set a few of the relationships based on the fact that some of them have a primary key and a foreign key, and it links those foreign keys and primary keys. One of the first things to do is to get this in an ERD sort of schema, such that you can say there are authors who create several books, for example, and then there could be several books that are in stock. And then, so I'm going to put these as descendants down here. I want to get this arranged in this way so that I can have an order of progression here, okay? So when I set my referential integrity, I really don't want to lose any authors. So I'm going to set this up such that the authors I'm going to do first. And of course, since there aren't any referential integrity rules to worry about at this point, the author table is going to get populated first. I won't lose any records here, but then in table ISBN, it'll kick out any records that don't have an author ID in the ISBN table, for example. So if an author ID exists in the ISBN table that doesn't already exist in the author ID table or in the author table, it will then remove those particular records out of the ISBN table. And so what I want to do is I want to create this link as a referential integrity link, and I want to enforce referential integrity on this particular link between ISBN and stock. So I'm not going to have any stock that doesn't already have a representation in the ISBN table, which is appropriate because that is the one that contains all of my title, number in a series, and basic information about each book. And then it will kick out any ISBNs that don't have representation in the author ID table, because that's where I get the majority of the information, or all the information about my author. So here we go. So let's start by creating some queries. So I'm going to create a query, and I'm going to take table author here, and I'm going to add. And what I'm going to do with table author is I'm just going to put the wildcard down here, and I want to do a make table query that is going to mirror the table author table, but it's going to be a copy. And the reason why is it's going to be a copy of the actual data. So when I run it, it's just going to dump all the data from table author into copy. Now what I want to do is do a delete, and I want to delete everything in table author. Okay, so now what I have is an empty table author table, and all my data is sitting in copy over here. I'm going to do the same with ISBN. So let's move ISBN over here and get rid of author, and I'm just going to do the same here. So on my database design table, this first one's going to be a make table query, and I'm going to get rid of author here and replace it with ISBN. And click OK, and I'm going to run it. And I have some rows of data there. And then I'm going to move over here to do a delete query and run it there. And I'll have an empty table ISBN table, and all my data is now here in the copy. Same thing as I did before. And I'm going to do the next thing with table stock here. Get rid of table author. You'll notice down here, when you delete the table that this refers to, that automatically deletes that down here, which is a nice little feature. So I'm going to double click on that. And I'm going to go to my design tools, and this is going to be a make table query. And it looks like I've got an R in my table there that I didn't get rid of. So table ISBN, and this one's going to be stock. And so I'm going to run that. And I've got 18,000 rows. Run this one. And I have now an empty table. Okay. So now I'm not going to save the changes. Those are just queries that did some work for me. Now so now what we've got here is this table author, table ISBN, and table stock are empty tables. So now I can just come here and I'm going to right click and I'm going to edit the relationship. And I want to enforce referential integrity. And I want to cascade update the related fields. Now when I click OK, I have my one-to-many relationship that I expected. Now I'll come on over here and do the same thing. And I can enforce referential integrity, updated related fields. I generally don't do the cascade delete related records because what that means is if I did delete a stock item, like for example, I sell the book for that example, I sell the book in my stock table. Well, it's a one-to-many relationship, so I don't have to delete the ISBN that was related to that stock item. And I definitely don't want to delete the author that was related to that one stock item. And cascade delete will go right up the tree here. And if there are no other ISBNs of that particular number used in the table stock table, it would actually delete the ISBN reference to that. And then it would go look for the author. And if that author ID doesn't appear anywhere in the ISBN table, it'll cascade delete the author ID too. So I don't like the cascade delete. You may find circumstances where you may use it, but this particular database just doesn't need that. Now, I've done my duty here, what I needed to do, and I'm going to save those changes. And now I have the data to deal with. So what I want to do is go right back to my create here and go to query design. I want to populate my author table again. I'm going to go right down that tree, remember, that I said I was going to do by populating author first, then ISBN next, and then the stock table next. And so I'm going to close that. I'm going to double click there. Actually, I don't want to use that one. I want to go ahead and double click the title bar and pull all the fields down here. Okay. And in doing that, let's make sure that I don't have that wildcard one. Nope, don't have that wildcard one in there. And now I'm going to do an append query. I am going to append table author. The minute I click over here, because the field names are all the same, it'll fill in all my field names for the append to row. And now I'm going to run it. Now this table, I would not expect to see any failures. I would just expect to see the data moved back. And there it is. Okay, so we're good. We're good. I'm going to then do the same thing with my ISBN copy. My ISBN R copy, because of that errant letter that I left in there. And we'll copy this down here. We will go to my design tab here. It is going to be an append query, but I'm going to click on it again so I can change the table. And we're going to change it to ISBN. And OK. So all of my append to fields are filled in properly. Yep, nice quick check there. And I'm going to click run here. Now, we're going to try to put those 33,000 rows in there, but when we do, we get this error message. Now, this error message is important. It says access added 0 fields due to null due to type conversion failure. Okay, fine. Here's where we find a number of records that didn't add to the table due to key violations. And what that's really telling you is that there are 6 records that did not meet referential integrity. So a key violation is also a referential integrity violation. And the rest of the records, it just says 0 records on the rest of the different options. So this appears to be a canned statement, whether you have an error due to lock violations or an error due to validation rules, whatever. It's canned, and it puts a number here, and you got to look for where the number is to interpret this particular error. So I'm going to say, yeah, I still want to append the other 33,000 plus, and I'll show you what to do with that a little bit later. So we got 6 records that have failed in the ISBN table. And then we go to table stock, move that on over here, delete that one. It deletes all those fields down there. I'm going to double click there, pull these into it, and we're going to append it to the table stock table, and click OK. And it fills in all of my append to fields. There, quick check. And I'm going to go ahead and run it. And it's going to look for 18,000 rows, and it's got 409 records in stock in the stock table that don't have their key field defined in the ISBN table. So those 409, I'm going to click yes, and I can delete this one. I don't need it anymore. If we go to our database tools and looks at our relationships are all intact. We have successfully linked the tables now with stock in them, and I can validate that real quick by going to my table author table, picking, let's say, David Baldacci, and seeing what records we have. We have a whole bunch of ISBNs that relate to him as an author. Okay, we got 77 records, and if I chose just Divine Justice, we could click on the plus there and see actually that we don't have any stock for that particular one. And we could keep clicking down here until we find that there are 2 in stock of the whole truth. So the referential integrity is working, and we have the ones that are linked all together and very nicely. And now part of the thing that's nice is when we looked at Divine Justice and found that there are not any items in stock, you notice there were a lot less stock items than there were ISBN codes. Well, obviously the assumption then would be is I can't possibly have stock for every single ISBN that we have documented in the table. So we're going to find some of them that don't have records here. But here we've cleaned things up. Now, the one thing that's interesting is now you can go and figure out which author IDs, which table author had all of them. So for example, let's say table ISBN. Which 6 ones didn't come into the data? And so table ISBN, I'm going to just do a quick query here and show you how to find the ISBN records that don't have records. And here we've got a join here, and what I want to do is change this join here to include all records in table ISBN R copy, because that's the one that's going to have my 6 that are missing. Okay, and only the records in table ISBN where the joined fields are equal. So I'm going to do a left outer join in this case. Okay, I am going to go ahead and put my data from this one down here, and I'm going to then put table ISBN, this one record here at the end, but instead of duplicating that record, I'm going to say my criteria is null. So what I'm essentially doing is I'm saying that if I find a record here, this table ISBN, that does not exist over here or is null in table ISBN, those are the 6 records I want to show. When I run that, there's my 6 records. So those are the 6 records that I deleted from the ISBN table when I did this operation. And then we can examine those, find out why they didn't meet criteria, and we can possibly, because I would assume that this author ID didn't exist in the author table. Is why they were deleted. So you might want to look at those author IDs and see why those author IDs, what author IDs they might have been. And it might be pretty difficult in this data set, especially if you were given this data set by a client. An author ID doesn't exist. How can you find out who that author ID related to? So we're probably in a kind of an impossible situation where we have those ISBNs that are undocumented as far as an author goes. So I hope you've enjoyed this film. It's great to see you again, and I hope you join me once again later. Thank you. I want to thank you so much for viewing this video. We have great content on the site, and I'm putting more content out every single day. There's a link to one of them on the side of the screen over here. Also, please help me grow the channel by subscribing. So hit that subscribe button a little bit lower on the other side of the screen, and hope to see you again. Thanks.